Chantel, I know there's a lot of people who are considering doing a mail-in application. Can you just run through that process very quickly on how someone would go about that?
Yeah, sure. So to do the mail-in, James, you need to be physically in Australia. So I think that's a big misconception. Sometimes people think that they can mail their visa documents in from outside Australia while they're still in the US. So not to confuse it with filing from within the US with an I-129. The mail-in, what that is you're physically in Australia and you're going to mail your visa application into the consulate. The consulate will approve that, put the visa in your passport and mail it back to you. To qualify for a mail-in, you need to be applying in the same visa category of that you were already just in. So say you're in an O1, you can do a mail-in to get a new O1 put in your passport. If you're in an E3, you can do a mail-in to get a new E3 put in your passport, including both renewals with the same company and change of employer. We've successfully done mail-ins for both. That's the pros of doing a mail-in, is that you don't have to go to an interview. If you're there already and you've done quarantine, then you can send your paperwork in. If you are flying there, you've just got to consider that you do need to finish quarantine first before you mail in your visa application. The US consulate will coordinate picking up the paperwork for you, and it goes in a toll priority envelope and gets couriered directly to the consulate. They adjudicate it and they courier your passport right back, which is nice. Another pro is that you don't necessarily have to use toll, which is the one that they will send to you. So if there was an issue with the toll service at one point, so they said to applicants, you can use any trackable mail service. We had a client recently use Australia Post. I do not recommend using Australia Post, even the express service of Australia Post, because she sent hers in and it took a week to get to the consulate, whereas most of the other ones, TNT, FedEx, Toll, take overnight. You have to be really careful that you don't forget to put a document in that packet, because if you do, we've seen that they will just reject it and send it back and request that you send that missing document in with it again. So you've kind of lost a time with that. We had a client that did not put in her old passport. They want to see your old passport. If you've gotten a new passport since you got your last visa, they want you to put your old passport in the packet with it. And if you forget to put your old passport in, then they will send, well, actually they don't send it back, but they do email you to say, can you please send your old passport in, because we need to cancel the old visa that's in your old passport. So you could lose a little bit of time there with that. So just be really careful that you include every single document that they ask for. With an emergency appointment or a regular appointment, you get gratification of knowing whether your visa's been approved pretty much on the spot. Whereas the mail-in, you're waiting for them to adjudicate it and waiting. You can check online, but you're waiting multiple days before you get to see an update, right? But when you're going for a visa interview, within 5 minutes, you know whether you're getting approved or not, and then you're just waiting for the passport to come back. So it's one of the nice things about having an interview as opposed to the mail-in. The other con with a mail-in is that they say that it could take up to 15 days for them to adjudicate it and send it back to you. We are typically seeing them do it much faster than that. We've seen them do it as fast as 4 days, and then an average of around 6 days. And the longest we've seen it so far is 8 days to get the passport back for the mail-in. The other con with a mail-in is if you don't qualify to do the mail-in. So you do need to qualify. So it has to, not only do you have to be applying in the same visa category, but you can't have been ever arrested, you can't have ever been denied a visa or denied entry or have overstayed your I-94 in the past. So you need to just double check those things. So, because if you mail your documents in and you don't qualify, you're going to have wasted time there as well. So they're the things that definitely need to be considered. The pros of having an emergency appointment, or if you can't do a mail-in that you would need an emergency appointment, is, if you have ever had a conviction or been arrested or overstayed a visa, or you're applying for a different visa category. So say you're an E3 and now you're switching to an O1, you can't do the mail-in. So the pros of having an emergency appointment is that you can still get a visa issued if you can get the emergency appointment, even if you don't qualify for a mail-in.
So it would be fair to say that if got a garden variety E3 and I'm flying back to Australia and doing my quarantine, probably the quickest way to get that turned around would be through a mail-in, simply because I don't need an appointment. I don't need to wait for an appointment. I don't need to request an emergency appointment, which I may not get for several weeks, as it sounds now. So the best option would be, again, assuming all things being equal, would be the mail-in option.
Absolutely. Right now, if you qualify for the mail-in, I don't see any reason why you would do anything else, because it's definitely tougher. As of this week, it's tougher to get an emergency appointment approved. And if you qualify for mail-in, as soon as you get out of quarantine, you mail it in, you'll come back. So certainly, and it's a lot more stress-free too.